Hello my friends, welcome back to This Week in Social Media. We talk about the fact that X is losing UK and US users. We give you an update on the X ban. We also give you an update on how creators can make money from their X communities. We talk a bit more about how you can understand what KPIs or key performance indicators you can use when investing in social media. We talk about a brand new lawsuit that's happening in the US related to TikTok's algorithm. We share some brand new understandings from a brand new study all about teen behavior on social media. We also talk about the sad news that Meta has had to cut nearly 100 more jobs from its organization, as well as ending the show on a small YouTube update. On the 23rd of September, we heard that X was losing some users in the US and the UK after the Financial Times reported that, quote, data from SimilarWeb shows that active daily users in the UK has dropped to 8 mil from a year ago to now only 5.6 mil. Whilst with more than a third of that fall since the summer riots, in not just where the platform is banned, in such as places as Brazil. Over the last 16-month period, X active users in the US has also fallen by a fifth. It is likely that a percentage of the UK users leaving the app is leaving because of Elon's civil war comments around the summer riots. We also heard the news that the number of EU users using the app is down 5% from 112 mil users to 106 mil users. That's a drop of 6 mil in the period that this chart shows. There has also been reports of one of the reasons why Elon can still claim that the app is doing really well is because of the last ownership of then Twitter recategorized the app as not a social media platform but as a news service or a news app, specifically on the iOS store, which changes its kind of boundaries and changes how it's categorized. And all other Pacific news apps are a lot smaller, and they don't necessarily just rely on user-generated content. There was a couple of articles that said that, well, this is specifically unfair, one of which being from Social Media Today that claimed that it's an unfair classification due to the app only using user-generated content. I'm sure the other side of the point of view is that if people are going to lose trust in mainstream less and less, then of course they would look somewhere else like X to get their news, or maybe an independent news channel like what we're doing here, or you know, your larger creators like Philip DeFranco, etc. as well. Important to keep in mind as well that, as we reported in last week's show, that 54% of US members of the public use social media as a news source, right? So there is this shift, there is this conversation around, are people being less trusting of mainstream media, and is this potentially why the guys at Twitter, when it was owned by Jack, moved it and changed the characteristics or changed how it was categorized in the iOS store as a news app and not a social media app? And do you feel that's an unfair classification? Because I know people who do use X as a news source, and I know journalism and journalist circles use use it as a news source as well, and use it as a way to gain that data and gain that understanding. But is there a threat? Is there a concern related to the potential misinformation or the lack of maybe fact checking that can happen on these social platforms? But then I would argue the same can be true from your Facebooks, your Instagrams, etc. You know, where does a lot of the mainstream media get its sources or get its videos or get its information from? Yes, 95%, 90% of the time it will be from reporters, sure, but actually a percentage of the footage and the B-roll and the supporting footage and some of the stories themselves start on places like X. So is it a fair classification? Is it not? It's very hard to say, and it's, I would personally say, more a personal objective opinion and a more objective thought process than whether it is or isn't. And at the end of the day, it's kind of down to Elon as the owner of X to choose how it's classified. But that is a thing to be aware of, that he can change the data to suit him and suit his narrative. I saw a tweet specifically last week talking about the fact that X was the #1 news source in the UK from an app store point of view. So is that twisting the facts? Is that not twisting the facts? I would love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. But moving back to my notes, there is also reports that Elon is, quote, betting, end quote, a lot on Mr. Trump being re-elected in a matter of weeks, as it puts him in a very strong place for him and his businesses. Quote, Musk would have a direct influential link to the White House and means a re-angle in politics to benefit his companies, specifically SpaceX, which often is hamstrung by government regulation. Social media today also claims if Trump does not win, I expect that Elon will go back to the drawing board on some aspects of X, and based on its current performance may end up actually shutting it down or selling it off as a result. With the election only a matter of a couple of weeks away, what do you think? Do you think Elon would sell off X to another platform after he's put in a lot of this time and effort to get it where it is today? And if so, who would buy it? Because that's the other question, right? Whenever there's a transaction like this, who's going to buy it? Is the brand damage necessarily going to be too great for Elon, and does he need to double down in that respect as well? Hello my friends, hope you're enjoying this video. Just wanted to ask a quick favour. 99.6% of you do not subscribe to the channel, right? It'd be lovely if we could decrease that number, so more of you subscribe to the channel. So if you don't mind subscribing right now, that would be incredible. Would love to grow the channel, would love to get more of you within this community I'm trying to build. And my promise to you is I will continue to share the updates on social media, the opportunities I see, and give you an insight into the opportunities that maybe you could leverage for your business and your kind of brand growth as a whole. So thank you ever so much for joining, and I'll cut back to the topic. So in other X Links news, we did see the return of X to the Brazilian market this week after Elon paid $5 million in fines and also banned the accounts in question. That was the whole kind of debate. I'll leave my videos that I've already covered this story in more detail down below for those who want to kind of be caught up on the story, and also as well as appointing a legal representative. There has been this large conversation, though, around did Elon kind of beg in or kind of give in to his freedom of speech ideals, right? Because I think it brings up the question of how much is he going to stand for freedom of speech, and is that kind of a false reality when it comes to this number of money and this amount of people and the potential pressure from governments? And, you know, if it's kind of opened this conversation again where, you know, and I'll use a quote from my notes here, that with misinformation that can be undermined, the government should not be allowed to be spread online. Or maybe Elon was right in standing up against government censorship, end quote. So this is kind of a conversation between two camps, right? Elon's side, which is freedom of speech and you should be able to say what you want and not freedom of consequences, of course. But then there's the other side, which is that people are going to be concerned by false truths, half-truths, untruths, misinformation being spread online and being amplified online. And as we talked about when we talked about the Twitter files, it was reported that there wasn't a don't amplify and don't allow certain bits of information to go, quote, viral or, quote, be pushed by the algorithm as such. So there was such thing as a, quote, shadow ban. And I think it's an important conversation that we need to have, which is, as I was alluding to at the beginning of this update, it's one of those things where Elon will stand for it for a certain period of time until it costs his companies too much money, by the looks of it, by what it sounds like. But talking about money, talking about X, we also got an update this week on how creators can be paid for their content on X as well. So, quote, "Creators, we're excited to unveil our biggest update for the creative revenue sharing yet. Payouts are increasing." That's good. "And you'll be able to be paid based on the engagement of your content from Premiere users, but not just from ads in the replies. Ads in replies will no longer impact your payout. Instead, you'll be paid based on the engagement from your content from Premiere users. So when your followers subscribe to X Premium and engage with your content, they will support you directly. And because X Premium is growing, your payouts will also grow. The more premium subscribers overall, the more revenue will earn." End quote. Now, this kind of brings up the question, and there was reports that said when I was doing research for this story that is it kind of becoming a bit pyramid scheme, right? Because it is incentivizing people to become premium members on X so that then they can directly support the creators on X, right? Now, the creators will only get a cut from X, so actually X is the one that wins here, surely, right? And Social Media Today did report that with X losing advertisers, it should help ensure that creators' payouts don't continue to decline, as many have found across to be the case. As reported before, X is losing advertising and is likely due to the fact that brands feel unsafe with their brand being running ads or their brand being on the platform, as well as with a fall in the user base that we reported on this week. As well as we reported on before, X is losing advertisers come next year, as it's likely due to the fact that brands feel unsafe with either posting their content on the platform or advertising specifically on the platform as well. Now, the question does kind of bring up is Elon going to double down on his people, right? So the people who really synergize with him, etc., and his plans for the Everything app and the pay-to-play future of X as well. So is it going to be a question on, do you move into this model and does it work? And then does that make you, quote, less reliant on advertising partners, end quote? And there was some talk, I didn't include it in the show, but there was some talk and some updates that I'll leave down in the description down below if you want to read about Elon's lawsuit against some of the larger advertising conglomerates that are pulling or potentially manipulating where they put their ads, and one of which was they're potentially pulling their ads from X, and how potentially Elon's argument was that was potentially illegal to do so in that respect as well. But what do you think of this change? Do you use X Premium? Would you fund creators whose content you enjoyed? Or should a creator look to potentially use something more like Patreon or YouTube channel membership or things like that to subsidize their revenue and help their community potentially support them financially, or just having an open PayPal link, right? I know creators who have done that previously. For those who wish to be supported by their community as well, there are other options. Is X's premiered features more useful and helps with the overall customer or user experience enough to justify that cost a month? And personally, I know people, and personally I'm looking constantly at what's going out a month, and is adding another monthly subscription necessarily going to help those creators regardless of your income level? Is it actually going to be better to watch YouTube content, potentially get other advertising deals, or diversify your revenue streams as a creator potentially, and using these other tools like YouTube Join Community, and looking at maybe sponsorships inside your content if that makes sense for you, etc. This is about creators being able to make a good living from creating content that's consumed and enjoyed by a larger audience. But is X Premiere really the way to do it? Is that going to allow or help creators or push creators to push forward or push into just X only content specifically? I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. This week we saw and we were shown a brand new infographic as well, which was lovely to see. And I think it's really important, and the reason why I wanted to bring this to the show is because it really showcases, and when I work with clients, we talk a lot about how we're going to get return on investment in regards to the money they're spending and the time they're spending in social media. And understanding a funnel like this is really important to actually be able to gauge what is that return on investment when you're investing all this time, energy and resources into doing videos, into doing social media content specifically. This is mostly going to focus on the organic reach that social media can give you, but also if you'd be interested in me looking at resources related to paid stuff, do let me know in the comment section down below. But when looking at organic social media, we find they feel it's best to leverage efficiency and to understand the funnel work specifically. So at the top end of this funnel, we have awareness, which increases brand reputation and expands your overall audience. Then the next level down, we have a conversation or a consideration level, depending on which level we're referring to. And this is specifically creating it's a level of qualification, right? So it's a level of nurture that's really going to help someone understand, should I potentially choose this supplier, this person, this product from consuming. And then as we move down, we have our conversion metrics, which boosts sign-ups, growth lists on email, and also customer engagement. So we're slowly building that again. We're really starting to be on that bottom level of trust. And then loyalty, building lasting long-term relationships with your audience and creating brand loyalty. And then the bottom level that turns your trusted contacts and ambassadors to shout and scream about your brand and showcase the likelihood that also you will be able to potentially receive residual revenue from them through either referrals or them retaining your services or consistently buying your product through the months ahead as well. Some key takeaways from each of these. Awareness is a key point at the start of everyone's marketing, because if you don't know who you are and what you do and who's then going to buy it from you, you're going to really struggle to do marketing. So this is really clear to get really, really key, and it's a good reminder for those in marketing who may be reviewing their marketing, maybe things are a bit slower for you at the moment. Really, really double down and really understand, who do you serve? Why should they listen to you, and what problems do you fix? Something that I found very interesting is the level of conversation and conversion level leading into. Personally, as I've shown previously, this is creating a level of add value and creating a level of nurture content to help your client or customer build more with how you work. Some key points to share on this information is to listen to their everyday needs, desires, and challenges of your target client or customer or audience, depending on what you're doing. But that's the key, because remember, when we're doing marketing, we are only brought in to fix a problem. If we cease to fix the problem, we are could be perceived as a bad investment. Therefore, it's unlikely to be continue to be, and something which I'm personally doing in my business is moving as close as I can to add as much valuable every single touch point and add as much value when it comes to what we're doing just with video, but also the overarching social media strategy as a whole when I bring on a new client. And generating new sales leads are both of course very key for any business to be successful, as we need paying clients to be coming in and staying working with us rather than leaving. Unfortunately, you're going to get a percentage that are going to leave throughout the years of working with you, because there is only so much value that we can add to our clients unless we're constantly trying to adapt and change. But some people just have a different habit, change their business. There's only certain much, maybe you're not then becoming a better fit for them. So for me, it's personally about really focusing on how do we bring in new clients to our businesses, how do we continue to offer great value to the clients that we do have, and then how can we continually grow, continually bring in more monthly revenue, and continually be able to up our marketing so that we can serve our clients better as well. The deeper someone is into your funnel, the more likely they are personally likely to buy from you, followed by then creating engagement with your content, and then potentially also referring business to you. So if you do have any questions or any thoughts on this specific infographic and some of my thoughts around it, then let me know in the comment section down below. TikTok is getting sued in the US this week over potentially hurting children's mental health. As reported by The Guardian, it sounds as if that there was a investigation brought into the TikTok algorithm as a whole, so this infinitely scrolling feed in March 22, where a bunch of different, and I'll leave the quote on screen, but also leave it down in the description down below if you want to read in more detail. A lot of states in America are going after potentially TikTok for the potential issues or potential concerns around how having an infinite scrolling feed on an impressionable mind can really rot their attention span, but also really have an issue and concern regarding their mental health as well. The key points to take away from the lawsuit seems to be that they're taking aim at this interest-based graph rather than a social-based graph that would be traditionally seen on your LinkedIn, your Facebooks, etc. Traditionally, the social media platforms were social based, which means that more comments, more interaction, etc., the better the post does. When TikTok launched, they created what's known as an interest-based graph. Therefore, you're only served content that you're interested in. YouTube Shorts do the same thing. And, you know, we're seeing this with Instagram Reels, we're seeing this with Facebook Reels as well, that it is showcasing and really pushing people to what they're more interested in rather than specifically. And it is a greater equalizer when it comes to these social platforms, because it doesn't really matter how many followers you have specifically. It doesn't really matter how many comments or likes or shares you get. Yeah, that helps, but actually what's more important is the engagement on the piece of content to then potentially serve it to a brand new audience. The key points to take away from the lawsuit is also by taking aim at the the interest-based graph, that rather than a social-based graph, creating a never-ending feed of content in the TikTok feed that you would, quote, enjoy, end quote, told users on the platform. There has also been further talks about adding warning labels that we've previously covered in this show as well to the apps and percentage of the content. The same worries have been talked about in regards to the gaming sphere regarding the loot boxes phenomena as well, which kind of is like it can get people hooked on gambling, and it can be quite a concern regarding gambling. However, with the looming potential full ban going into effect within the new year, there's a lot of legal steps behind that they're questioning and they're not necessarily moving forward with at the moment, because they're waiting to see what happens with the US election. Depending on who wins, it will likely change whether the ban is going ahead or not. So I think for me, this is a conversation again around, is it down to the child? Is it down to the parent? Is it down to the platform? Is it down to the government to step in? Because all TikTok, in my point of view, yes, we need to have this conversation about mental health. Yes, we should have. Of course, we should need to protect our children on the internet and look after their mental health. But surely that should be down to, you know, creating safeguards in these apps to mean that a child isn't going to be able to infinitely scroll for hours and hours and hours and go down that infinite rabbit hole. Or is it the parents who should step in and say, look, you know, you've been on your phone for X amount of time, let's go and do something else, let's go and do this, XYZ. Is that the issue? Or, failing that, does it have to be the government in this case? And that's why I think the lawsuit is going to be kind of pushing the government to potentially regulate these social media platforms more, to be able to go after this, to be able to have, you know, in theory there should be a TikTok Kids app that has different restrictions, has parental controls, etc. And we've talked about in the show before how TikTok is going out of its way to try and protect children, try and protect their mental health. They're putting in, you know, committees and their groups and parental controls and safeguards and stuff in place. But is the lawsuit potentially poking at a kind of feed of opportunity when it comes to content creation and creating attention, right? Which is what advertisers, it's constant backwards and forwards between advertisers and then the safety side of it from kids. But I think for me, I think we have to be very careful not to put the whole blame and necessarily always wanting to pursue it legally, because surely there should be a level of responsibility in allowing one's child to be on social media for this amount of time. You know, as I said, and I'll leave it with this, but is there, whose responsibility is it? Is it the platform to put those safeguards in place? Is it down to the government to put those in place? Or is it actually down to being a responsible parent to not allow your children to be on social media for that much time? We also heard a brand new study this week all about what apps, ironically, teenagers are going to be using. The short answer to this is Instagram and TikTok were high on the teens' usage list, with Snapchat being number 3. In most cases, it's due to a phenomena known as not being cool to be on the same apps as your mum, dad, and your older family members. So hence why we saw a lot of the teenagers migrate to TikTok when Facebook was becoming really popular, and etc. And we're probably going to see the same thing in a world. And we sort of saw that when adults were starting to become on Instagram as well. Then the teens went to TikTok and then went back to Snapchat, or went to Snapchat as well. The study itself looked at 1,300 US teens to create this data. Some key takeaways were that Netflix was 3% more in daily video consumption than YouTube/YouTube TV, with TikTok being 7% over Instagram. And in terms of other social platforms, Pinterest is gaining more interest in the past, up by 6%, whilst Facebook has seen a slight increase in regards to 2% the last time we did the study. And also the platform formerly known as Twitter, otherwise known as X, meanwhile has a decline of a similar amount of negative 2% as well. So for those of you who do advertise, potentially advertise to the teenage cohort market, then keep this in mind about where you should be putting your content. Keep this in mind about where you should be spending those advertising pounds and dollars. And moving on to the unfortunate sad news that we saw more job cuts being announced by Meta this week, 100 more this time round, come as they are being focusing on more being efficient over the last couple of years, with Meta cutting 1,100 employees in 2022 and 10,000 more people in 2023. Even though that Meta's revenue seems to be in a good place in regards to its bottom line this year, it may continue to focus on being profitable, with their VR developments pushing up costs into the billions, with a very little return at the moment. However, Meta did make clear, wherever possible, it would do what it could to help those losing their jobs in the following statement. Quote, "Today, a few teams at Meta are making changes to ensure that resources align with our long-term strategy, goals, and location strategy. This includes moving some teams into different locations and moving some employees to different roles. In the situation when a role is eliminated, we always work hard to find others opportunities for the impacted employees," end quote. There has also been reports that X, or Elon's company, was formerly Twitter, was also cutting jobs around the same time. And there was this kind of conversation around, is tech people, Mark Zuckerberg, other tech companies, going to look at what X is doing, what Meta is doing, etc. They're going to look and see what other people in the tech sector are doing when it comes to quote, cutting the fat or cutting the bloat that allegedly happened around kind of the downturn of COVID, and seeing that economic knock-on effect. And it's just keeping those costs in check, I think, for a lot of companies at the moment, and that does align with the research I did for this week's show. So what do you think about the unfortunate fact that Meta has had to cut some more staff? Is this going to be the last cuts we see, or do you feel in the next 2 years we're going to see some more? Are they potentially putting too much money into the VR side of their business? As I said, that is costing up to billions. So when you're spending billions there, you do need to look at the revenue, and you do need to make sure you're still profitable. Now, that's a shame. Is that a good trade up? Let me know in the comment section down below. And we also heard an update on YouTube this week as well. Very, very brief set of changes and very, very brief little wins on YouTube side. But YouTube will be adding Shorts templates to the Shorts creator for those who create Shorts through their phone. So allowing you to basically supercharge what it sounded like the remix features that was already in YouTube that they basically stole from TikTok. And also, when viewing YouTube on the phone app, it looks like that they got some feedback that some users were getting issued too many shorts, or the short shelf specifically, so they were being issued too many shorts, and they're adding the 3-dot option to remove less shorts or show fewer shorts on that home feed as well. So hopefully that'll be less annoying for those who found that annoying. And a very, very quick little update as well was the YouTube Studio app for iOS and Android that you can use on your phone and your tablets now supports landscape mode. So those who want to see on a landscape kind of configuration to see the charts in your data, then you can now do so. But that is going to wrap up the end of this week in social media. So thank you ever so much for coming back and joining me once again. I'll be back next week talking about social media news, talking about what we heard, what's happened, and I would love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. If you are new, and why not, and you enjoyed this episode, why not be subscribed? We do upload every single week. Thank you ever so much for coming back and joining me, and I'll see you very, very soon.